welcome to my channel. If you are new here, hi, hey, hello, my name is Meg and we do crafty things here. So if you like crafty things, please do consider subscribing. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing and tuning in to another video. So today we are going to be knotting dangerously. Yes, we haven't done that in a long while, but today we're walking on the dark side. Just kidding. Today we're actually going to be tackling the clean back alpha technique, which was highly requested from you guys. It didn't super appeal to me because I'm not super into keychains. I'm more into bracelets or wall hangings if you've seen my work. In those instances, the back is against something, so it doesn't matter if it's clean. But keychains are huge, so you want it to be like, you know, flippy floppy, reversible. You can look at either side. So I thought I would actually give it a go. So this technique is originally by an Instagram user that goes by the username knotting_addict. I'll throw her name up on the screen here, as well as link her Instagram in the description box so you guys can check out all of her amazing work as well. But basically she posted a tutorial there. I glazed through it and kind of just grasped the concept. So this is going to be an experience for all of us. And the instructions, who needs that? So let's pump that brake pedal for a second, because apparently I needed instructions, because I have finished this project. It is clean back. It looks fine. But I'm realizing now, halfway through editing this video, that I didn't actually follow her technique exactly. So yeah, this is like a variation, I guess. Technically, I don't know. So we're going to figure this out together with bracelet book pattern 57897, which is a cute whale in the sunshine splashing sort of pattern, summery vibes, which I am needing right now. So I've jumped ahead to our first color change. Now there are a couple differences between, like I said, how she has her tutorial and how I did this. Both seem to work, so you're more than welcome to use either, apparently. So in her tutorial, she introduces the string a couple rows ahead, generally it looks like, and kind of groups them in with a bass string and knots around it for a couple of rows until she needs it. However, obviously this is starting right near the top. I introduced my string just a couple knots ahead using like the flat alpha color change technique, just knotting the first half of the knot with the blue, hiding the yellow in the middle by laying it across that first half of the knot, and then finishing the second half of the knot with my blue until such a time that it was time to knot with my yellow. So now that I've got this yellow introduced, right now there isn't really anything too crazy happening. Basically doing the flat alpha color change, and then I carry the string I'm not using through the center of the knots because I do need to use it on the other side of this color. So let's skip ahead until things get maybe a little more interesting. So this is where things actually get really interesting. It's also a great spot where I can show you where I figured this out different than she did, because I didn't read through all of her instructions. I kind of just grasped the concept and went with it. So basically, as you can see, my yellow is pushed to the back of my work. She doesn't appear to ever do that. What she would do is, in her tutorial on Instagram, she would fold that yellow down in with the base strings until the next row when she needed it. So she would do that by reaching the flat alpha color change. She would do the first half of the knot and then lay the other string across and like bend it down so that the second half of the knot, you're knotting it with the base string. So instead of sandwiching it completely in the middle horizontally, she like bends it. Whereas what I did was I pushed it completely to the back, and then when I need that color again, I pick it up at exactly the same spot in the row below, and pulling it up where I dropped it out makes it disappear in between the knots on the back. So I think either technique is pretty good. Hers, you see a tiny bit, if you were to expect it really up close, you see a tiny bit of difference in the knots on the front, it looks like. Mine, you see a tiny little kind of difference in the back. So I don't think there's really any pro or con to doing it either or way. But what was most interesting about this part is, this pattern is a good example of it, is if you have to carry your strings long distances, because of the way the whale tail is in this pattern, it kind of cups the sun. So I actually have to carry this black string all the way across, or alternately introduce a second black string on the other side. But I wanted to see what would happen. So let's jump ahead a little bit and see how this goes. And it just keeps getting better. Yes, indeed it does. Because this actual pattern, the sun is like hollowed out. It's just background color in the middle. It's like an outline. But I decided to add another color in to see what would happen if we would warp it, if you had a lot of colors in a close area where you had to carry them. So in this instance, I have the black that has to carry from side to side. I have the yellow that has to carry through the entire center. And then I have this orange that also has to carry in the center. So at times here, we're going to see 3 strings carried through a single knot. And my expectation was warping. Now, I'm not really sure where the actual line is. I can tell you that when I reached this point of having 3 strings through the center of a single knot, I was pulling extremely tight to get my knots to look as close to uniform to the other knots in the pattern. Now the end result is, for me, because of how hard I was pulling, like actually hurting my fingers, to be quite honest, the warping wasn't significant, but there was some warping because the knots on either side, the left and the right, didn't have anything carrying in them. They're just blue knots because I'd already dropped the black color when I reached that point, and obviously all the sun colors because I didn't need to carry them that far. So the end result ended up being that the edges did start getting like a smile line. A tiny bit, but because I think of how tight I pulled on these rows, expecting that warping to happen, I maybe mitigated a bit, kind of balanced things out a smidge. But I don't think this is avoidable in her technique either. I don't think this is a difference of how I approached the concept versus how she did. But if anyone has tried her technique, like true to her technique, and can tell me different, please by all means let me know in the comments down below. I carried these through, and then when I was done with them, I pushed them to the back. And in doing so, I will grab a little screenshot to show you guys. If you don't pull it tight enough coming up in the next knot, it is a little bit visible in between the knots, but overall, I don't think it's that terrible. It's a nice clean back still in the finished product. Now, alternately, of course, you could see warping in another way. You could potentially see warping, I think, maybe horizontally, with the pattern actually starting to expand. But again, I don't know if that was maybe mitigated, if that would have happened if I had kept my tension consistent instead of actively trying to counteract what I knew was happening. And overall, I think I did a pretty good job, but I think if we'd have hit 4 strings in this area, we would have been toast. I think that would have been pretty noticeable because, like I said, I was pulling very tight at this point. It was also at this point that I realized my biggest pet peeve with this technique was going to be me forgetting to pick up my strings where I dropped them off, which would have been a non-issue had I actually followed all of her instructions instead of just kind of glancing at her diagrams and putting my own conclusions to them. Yeah, so I think that would be mitigated with hers, but it could also be mitigated with just more practice. So you can see here a perfect example of what I do. I just dropped my orange string to the back of the work, and now when I come back, when I hit this spot where I just dropped it out, I'll literally just pull it to the front before I do my next knot. Okay, so bear with me, but if you see that little black shadow, that's actually where I didn't pull the black string through. I just wanted to mention that, point that out so you guys knew if you tried it this way, you may see that. This is actually a great point where we're later in the pattern, but we can see how those lines way up near the top affected even down here, that like alphas, those small things like ripple effect through your entire bracelet. So we did see that it did start hitching up at the sides a little bit. All right, and here is our finished product. I even busted out the sparkle string for the waves because you know water sparkles, okay? My only regret with this variation, I guess, of this technique, I still can't believe I accidentally did that. Like, actually erased all of my voiceover because I was almost done it before I actually went back and double checked her technique. I was like getting ready to link her stuff and realized I'd done it completely not the way she had posted it. So my only regret was that I didn't add my colors in right when I needed them. Instead, added them in early because you can see kind of like that yellow tuft in the tail. There's an orange tuft there and a black one in the blue that would have been hidden by the knot of the same color right beside it had I added it in right when I need it and weaved them out as soon as I was done. But either way, I think this turned out really, really cute. I think that's really the only thing I would change with this if I were to do this again. Otherwise, though, I do have some bracelet ASMR. I told you guys that I knot really tight. So here is an example of just how tight I knot. Do you guys hear that? I can drum my fingers on this and it makes a noise. That's how tight I was tying this. If you made it this far, let me know how tight you tie down below in the comments. Also, let me know if there's any other techniques you want to see me attempt or come up with. I don't know. And if you liked this, please give it a big ol' thumbs up down below. And until next time, guys. Bye.